Before we get into things, I do want to say that this video won't really contain any major spoilers for the later episodes of Loki, although I would still recommend you watch the show so you kind of have an idea of what's going on. So yeah, as you can probably tell, this is sort of scaled at a $30 Lego set size. Of course, that's reflected in the box size as well. And on top of that, there are also 3 figures, which I will go into more detail on a little bit later. But first, let's take a look at the actual set that I've designed. So the set itself is essentially just a facade. It's fairly similar to the Doctor Strange Sanctum Sanctorum that we got back in 2016. It's pretty similar to the upcoming new Asgard set that we're getting on August 1st. So yeah, as you'd expect with a facade-like set like this, it's really aimed more towards a display piece than a actual play set, of course, although I did want to include some play features and some play value to this, so I'll kind of go into detail with that. But before we take a look at sort of the main play feature that this has, I'm going to take a look at some of the other details that are actually included here. Starting on the left of the build, you can see there is a bookcase as well as a bit of an office setup with a desk, chair, and computer. And this is sort of just a small representation of Judge Renslayer's office that we see in the show. Of course, I tried to put as many little details as I could into this little area, and so you can see there are some things on the bookcase that sort of represent trophies and such. There are also some other interesting details, including a bit of a reference to the first episode of the show, where you can actually open up the desk in a bit of a weird way. But you can open up the desk, and inside you can see there is actually an Infinity Stone, which I thought the most fitting stone to put in this would of course be the Time Stone, so I put that in there. And I think that's another little interesting Easter egg, I guess. On top of that, there's also a chair, which is fairly generic, but of course fills up the space and adds to the office aesthetic. And of course, probably one of the most obvious things here actually, which is this huge computer that is sort of styled in the same sort of aesthetic as the TVA, which is sort of this old-fashioned, semi-futuristic aesthetic. Moving over from that, you can see some other details and panels that are built into the wall. On this side, you can see a bit of a monitor with the TVA logo on it, which I guess is a nice little detail. Moving over to the center here, you can see there are some other details, including the emblem on the floor for the TVA. And of course, that area kind of leads up to essentially what is the elevator that leads down to a somewhat important area of the TVA, I guess. I'm not going to say exactly what it is because I didn't want to talk about spoilers, but if you've watched the show, you probably know what that leads to. But yeah, it's a bit of an elevator here, and that's sort of the main part of the play feature that's built into this set, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And moving over to the other side of the elevator, you can see there's another panel with some detailing, which has the Sacred Timeline on it, as well as Miss Minutes from the show. Below that, you can see some other details on the ground, and this is supposed to represent one of the reset charges, so that's what that is. It's just a lantern piece with a transparent cylinder inside, but I think it works pretty well for a reset charge, actually. And moving over to kind of the last section of this build, which is also offset to the main section, sort of at a 45-degree angle, similar to Renslayer's office on the other side. You can see sort of a cafeteria build from the TVA. Of course, there are some interesting details here with a bit of a table build, as well as a lamp build that's put on top of that. Of course, behind the table and the lamp, there are also some details to just add a bit more depth. And so you can see there's one of the time batons that the TVA members use. And next to that on the wall, you can see there is essentially just a representation of the monitor that's seen in the sort of main room of the TVA. Despite the printing not really being based off of anything specific from the show, I do think it turned out pretty well, and there are some interesting little Easter eggs if you want to look at the text on that. Don't look too closely at the dates because those may not be right. I could be wrong with that. But if you can figure out what those dates are supposed to represent, then leave that down below in the comments, and I'll see if you guys are right. But yeah, that's basically kind of an overall look at the TVA. There are, of course, some other play features I want to go into, and of course the minifigures, which I haven't yet covered, so let's get right into that. Moving back to the main part of the build, you can see the centerpiece is, of course, still the elevator, and this is, of course, where the main play feature takes place. Essentially, what you would do is press down on the slope with the TVA emblem printed on it, and that would essentially cause the elevator doors to sort of explode open, which is a bit of a weird way, I guess, to have them open, because it's a bit more of an explosion, less of just elevator doors opening in a traditional way, although I think it's just a bit more visually interesting to have it open like this. And of course, that reveals sort of a back part to the set where you can place any minifigure. I've put Loki back there, of course. And so that sort of reveals sort of a hidden part to the set. And so yeah, in that hidden area back there, you can see a transparent orange doorway, which essentially just represents the time doors that the TVA uses to travel through time. And yeah, well, I doubt LEGO would actually make that piece in transparent orange, because I don't think they've made doorway pieces in transparent colors, as far as I know, unless I'm I have no clue. But yeah, I'm pretty sure LEGO's never made those pieces in any transparent colors, so It would definitely be interesting to see, but it's obviously very unlikely. More of just a conceptual thing that I thought actually looked pretty good. So moving on from the actual set itself, as I said, there were also 3 minifigures that I designed to go along with the set. Those, of course, being Loki, Mobius, and Judge Renslayer. Starting off with that, we have Loki up first, who is fairly basic, of course. He has some very basic leg printing as well as some torso printing to represent sort of his prison outfit, I guess, or I guess really just his outfit that he has at the TVA. Seeing as we're supposed to be getting sort of the variant outfit for Loki in the upcoming Disney Plus CMF, I didn't really want to do that version of him in this set. I wanted to try something different, so that's kind of the reason I went with this outfit for him. As far as accessories, he has 2 knives because, well, Loki, so that makes sense. And he also has some handcuffs because, well, he's in the TVA, and it makes sense with the outfit that he's got. Next up is Mobius, who is a character we probably won't be seeing anytime soon in LEGO, unfortunately, but he's still fairly interesting, and you can actually do some fairly decent purist customs if you're interested with Mobius. This, of course, is not. He does have a custom torso print here, so I think, honestly, that works fairly well. He has some dual molded legs, of course, and actually an existing head print from a Harry Potter set, actually. And as far as accessories here, you can see he's got a printed 2x2 tile with sort of his jet ski magazine, which is also something I believe that shows up in the first couple episodes, maybe. But yeah, so it's a fairly generic looking magazine print with, of course, a jet ski on it. And yeah, so that looks pretty solid. And last up, for the third figure that we have here, we have Judge Renslayer, who is a character we meet in the TVA. As far as printing, it's also fairly simplistic, with just the torso print being a new print. The legs, of course, are exactly the same as Mobius's, being dual molded. The head print is, as far as I know, from Spider-Man Far From Home. I think it's from MJ. And of course, the hairpiece is a fairly common hairpiece, I think. I know it's on Misako from Ninjago, but not in that black color. And for her accessories, she has one of the TVA time batons, although this one is sort of unprimed, I guess. It doesn't have the transparent orange piece on it. And her other accessories, of course, her tempad, which is sort of an interesting printed piece. It's not really specifically based directly off the way it looks in the show, but it obviously represents the tempad, and I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, that about does it for the 3 figures that I've designed, as well as, of course, the entire set. There are some other smaller things I just haven't mentioned, like sort of the printing that's on the elevator panels, which was rather interesting to make, and there are just some other stuff I guess I haven't really mentioned. But yeah, I guess we can take this chance to look at sort of the main box art that I haven't really fully discussed yet, which, by the way, took way longer than I expected. It's not easy. So yeah, respect to people that make a custom box art, because it's definitely kind of difficult. I guess if you have a workflow for it, then maybe not that complicated, but yeah, it's really complicated to do it properly, and hopefully it came across decent here. I don't know, it's a fairly decent attempt, given that this is kind of like the first time I've done custom box art, so hopefully it's not complete trash. Anyway, this was definitely an interesting custom set to design, given that it's just very different to what I would traditionally do. Of course, the first obvious thing is that I usually design stuff physically with actual Lego bricks, as this was designed primarily in stud.io actually, and then transferred over to Mecha Bricks and then rendered in Blender if you're interested, so that's sort of the workflow that I used. But the other thing is just the fact that this is based off of Marvel instead of Ninjago, which is what I normally design stuff for, so a bit of a different direction to take that in, I guess. But overall, definitely an interesting custom set, and hopefully you guys enjoyed my take on the TVA. So if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel, like the video if you guys actually enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Goodbye.